My name is Hannah, and I've spent my whole life being the afterthought in my own family. I told myself it wasn't real. I was just imagining it. But then, at the airport, I saw my sister walk in, with her kids, the ones my parents swore weren't invited. And when I demanded answers, my mother just smiled and said, "We just love them more." That was the moment I knew I wasn't just walking away from a trip. I was walking away for good. I stood at the departure gate, suitcase in one hand, boarding pass in the other. The airport buzzed with energy. Families reuniting, travelers rushing to their gates, the hum of announcements overhead. But inside, I felt nothing but a hollow stillness. Something was off. I just didn't know what yet. This trip had been in the works for months. My parents, James and Patricia, planned it meticulously, calling it a special getaway, just for the adults. A chance to reconnect as a family without the distractions of kids. I hesitated at first. Leaving my two little ones behind felt wrong, unnatural. But my mother had reassured me over and over again. "Hannah, you deserve this. You're always running yourself ragged for those kids. Let someone take care of you for once." She made it sound so reasonable. So I caved, arranged everything, stocked the fridge, wrote down emergency contacts, called my kids twice before heading to the airport. I was ready to embrace this rare moment of freedom, to be Hannah again, not just mom. And then Olivia walked in. I froze. My sister strolled toward the gate, dressed in effortless vacation chic, pulling a leopard print suitcase behind her. And right behind her, like a tiny, chaotic storm, came her three children, laughing, bickering, backpacks swinging, sticky fingers clutching half-eaten snacks. My stomach dropped. I turned to my parents. "Wait, what's going on? You said this was adults only." My mother barely glanced up as she adjusted the strap of her purse. "Oh, don't make a fuss, sweetheart." She waved a dismissive hand. "Olivia's kids are different. They're no trouble at all." No trouble at all? I looked at my nephew, the youngest, as he climbed onto an airport seat like it was a jungle gym, giggling as he tried to jump off. Olivia caught my eye and let out a breathy little laugh. "Relax, Hannah. My kids are angels. You won't even notice they're here." I opened my mouth, but before I could speak, my mother said it. The words that sent an ice-cold shiver down my spine. "We just love them more." First, I thought I misheard. Surely, she hadn't just said that. Not out loud. Not to my face. But she was smiling. Like it was the most natural thing in the world. Like she hadn't just driven a knife straight through my chest. I let out a hollow, disbelieving laugh. "Excuse me?" She sighed, as if I was the unreasonable one. "Oh, don't be so sensitive, Hannah. We just mean, well, Olivia's kids are easier. They listen better. They're more, lovable. Lovable." I felt my fingers tighten around my suitcase handle. My mind flashed to my children. Emily and Jake. Back home, waiting for a mom who had left because she thought she had no choice. Because her own parents had looked her in the eyes and lied to her. "You lied to me," I said, my voice steady but only just. My father let out a tired sigh. "Hannah, don't start. You know how hard Olivia has it. She's a single mom with 3 kids. She needed this more than you did. Needed it more." The words rattled inside me, sparking something deep, something furious. I turned to Olivia, waiting for her to say something, anything, to acknowledge how messed up this was. She just shrugged, eyes back on her phone, completely unbothered, as if she had every right to be here while my children were left behind. And that was it. That was the moment it all clicked. This wasn't a mistake. This wasn't an oversight. This was a choice. A deliberate, calculated choice to prioritize Olivia and her children over me and mine. A choice so obvious, so unapologetic, that they hadn't even considered explaining it to me. I clenched my jaw and took a slow, measured breath. I had spent years making excuses for them. Years convincing myself that the favoritism wasn't real, that I was imagining things. But now it was undeniable, and I had a choice to make. I glanced at my boarding pass, then at my family, then back at my boarding pass. Suddenly, I knew exactly what I had to do. I stood there, gripping my suitcase so tightly my knuckles turned white. The world around me faded into a dull buzz. The laughter of Olivia's kids, the chatter of travelers, the distant hum of an overhead announcement. None of it mattered. Not anymore. I had always known, deep down, that my parents played favorites. I had felt it in the little things, the way Olivia's kids got the biggest gifts at Christmas, the way my parents always offered to help her out but never me, the way my children were treated like an afterthought. But I had spent years convincing myself it wasn't real, that I was overthinking it, that if I just tried harder, I could earn the same love, the same attention, the same place in their hearts. But now, standing in this airport, I realized the truth. There was nothing left to earn. They had already made their choice. "Enjoy your vacation," I said, my voice calm. Too calm. The kind of calm that came right before a storm. I turned on my heel and started walking toward the exit. "Hannah, don't be ridiculous," my mother called after me, her voice dripping with irritation. "The flight is boarding." I didn't stop. "Hannah." My father's voice was sharper now, angrier. "Don't act like a child over this." That made me stop. Slowly, I turned back, meeting his gaze head-on. "Act like a child?" My voice was eerily steady. That's rich, coming from the people who just told me to my face that they love my sister's kids more than mine. My mother paled, glancing around, suddenly aware that people were watching. My father set his jaw, his frustration turning to full-blown anger. "Olivia?" Still scrolling through her phone, completely uninterested. I shook my head, laughing under my breath. Not because it was funny, because it was so predictable. "You know what? You did me a favor today," I said, shifting my suitcase to my other hand. "I've spent my entire life trying to prove myself to you. Trying to be enough. But today, you finally said it out loud." I exhaled sharply, feeling something inside me snap free. "I hope you enjoy your trip. Because I won't be on it. And after today," I took a step back, "I won't be in your lives either." And with that, I turned and walked away for good. Before we continue the story, I want to connect with all of you, my amazing viewers. Where are you watching from? Drop the flag of your country in the comments below. I love seeing how far our community reaches. Now, let's get back to it. The drive home was a blur. My hands gripped the steering wheel so tightly I was surprised it didn't snap in half. The words kept replaying in my head. "We just love them more." It wasn't just a statement. It was a verdict. By the time I pulled into my driveway, my decision was made. I stepped out of the car, and before I could even close the door, I heard the sound of tiny feet pattering across the floor inside. "Mommy." Emily's curls bounced as she launched herself into my arms, hugging me so tight I thought she'd never let go. Behind her, Jake grabbed onto my leg, his little hands clutching my jeans. "You're back already?" Sarah, my best friend, peeked around the corner, eyebrows furrowed in confusion. "What happened?" I forced a smile, running my fingers through Emily's hair. "I'll explain later." Sarah studied my face for a long moment, then nodded. She knew me well enough to recognize that something had changed. That night, after the kids were in bed, I sat at the kitchen table, staring at my phone. 10 missed calls from Mom. 6 from Dad. 3 from Olivia. I ignored them. Instead, I opened our family group chat. The same chat where my parents constantly gushed over Olivia's kids. The same chat where I had spent years biting my tongue, smiling through the pain, pretending I didn't notice the imbalance. Not anymore. I started typing. "I won't be coming on the trip. And I won't be part of this family anymore, either." I hesitated for only a second before continuing. "I've spent my entire life being treated like I was less. Like my children were less. Today, you made it clear that was never going to change. So I'm done. Enjoy your vacation. But from now on, don't call me. Don't text me. And don't expect anything from me ever again." I read it over once, my pulse pounding in my ears. Then, without a second thought, I hit send. One by one, I left every family group chat. Then I blocked their numbers. It was done. The silence hit me first. For the first time in my life, my phone wasn't buzzing with messages from my parents. No group chats filled with updates about Olivia's kids. No passive-aggressive comments disguised as concern. Just silence. And it was blissful. At first, I thought maybe they had finally understood. Maybe they had taken a second to reflect, to acknowledge the hurt they had caused. But by the next morning, I had my answer. The calls started again. Then the texts. My mother told me I was overreacting, that we needed to talk. My father called it nonsense, demanding that I call her back. Olivia, as expected, dismissed it entirely, telling me to grow up. Not a single apology. Not even the slightest hint that they realized what they had done. They didn't see a problem. They never had. By the third day, the messages changed. My mother insisted I was being unreasonable, reminding me that family is family. My father called me selfish, saying that after everything they had done for me, this was how I repaid them. Selfish. The word nearly made me laugh. Where was this concern when I was a struggling mother with 2 kids and no support? Where was this urgency when Olivia was getting everything handed to her while I worked twice as hard for half the recognition? Then came the message that made me sit up straight. My mother said that she and my father needed financial help and that we needed to talk. And there it was. The real reason behind their sudden desperation. I stared at the screen, reading the words twice just to make sure I wasn't imagining them. They weren't worried about losing me. They were worried about losing what I provided. For years, I had been the responsible daughter. The one who never asked for anything, the one who helped whenever they needed it, the one who made things work no matter what. I had spent years pouring into them while they gave nothing back. And now that I was gone, now that I had finally said enough, they weren't mourning the loss of me. They were mourning the loss of their safety net. I set my phone down without responding. I wasn't their solution anymore. That night, I tucked Emily and Jake into bed, kissing their foreheads, listening to their soft, even breathing as they drifted off to sleep. My children, the ones my parents had deemed less lovable. I ran a hand through Emily's curls, feeling a fresh wave of anger rise in my chest. How could they look at her and not see everything I did? How could they not see how bright and kind and wonderful she was? How could they not see how Jake's laughter could light up a room? How his little hands wrapped around my arm every night, holding on to me like I was his whole world. My kids weren't the problem. My parents were. And I was done protecting their image at my children's expense. As I stepped out of their room, my phone buzzed again. But this time, it wasn't my parents. It was Jason. I frowned, staring at the screen. My ex-husband never called unless it was about the kids. Curious, I answered. There was a pause, then a sigh. He told me that my mother had called him, that she wanted him to talk to me, that I was acting out and making things hard for the family. A sharp, bitter laugh escaped me. Of course. Even after I had walked away, they were still trying to control the narrative. I braced myself. Jason had never defended me before. Not when we were married. Not when I had begged him to step up. But then he said he told her to leave him out of it. That it was none of his business. And then, he told her that I was a damn good mom. That they should be grateful I was even willing to talk to them at all. Silence. I didn't know what to say. Jason and I were never going to be friends. We were barely even cordial co-parents. But hearing him say that, hearing him acknowledge it, felt like a door closing on something I didn't even realize had been left open. I finally found my voice and told him that was unexpected. He sighed and admitted that he hadn't been great to me, but he saw it now, and he just wanted me to know that. I swallowed hard and thanked him. He let out a short laugh and told me not to get used to it. The call ended, and I sat there for a long moment, staring at the screen. For so long, I had been waiting for someone, anyone, to acknowledge the weight I had been carrying. And now that they finally had, I realized I didn't need it anymore. A week passed, then 2. The calls slowed, then stopped altogether. No more messages. No more guilt trips disguised as concern. No more Olivia acting like I was the one being dramatic. Just silence. And with it, a strange sense of peace. For the first time in years, I wasn't waiting for their approval. I wasn't chasing their love. I wasn't bending myself into knots trying to be seen. I was just living. One evening, as I was making dinner, Emily wandered into the kitchen, dragging her stuffed bunny behind her. She tilted her head, her little brows knitting together in confusion. "Mommy, when are we going to Grandma and Grandpa's house again?" I froze. Jake, sitting at the table, perked up. "Yeah, we haven't seen them in forever." I swallowed hard, setting down the wooden spoon I had been stirring with. How could I explain to my children, who were still too young to understand manipulation and favoritism, that their grandparents had never truly valued them, that they had only cared about them when it was convenient? I knelt down to Emily's level, brushing a stray curl from her face. "Sweetheart," I said gently, "we're not going to see Grandma and Grandpa anymore." Her little face scrunched up. "Why not?" I hesitated, choosing my words carefully. Because sometimes, family doesn't treat us the way we deserve, I said. And when that happens, we have to make our own family, one that loves us the right way. Emily seemed to think about that for a moment, then nodded. Okay. And just like that, she accepted it. It was that easy for her. If only it had been that easy for me. A few days later, just as I was settling in for the evening, there was a knock at my door. I frowned. No one ever just showed up at my house unannounced. Peeking through the window, my stomach dropped. Olivia. For a moment I considered ignoring her. But a part of me, the part that was still learning how to let go, needed to know why she was here. I opened the door but didn't step aside. She sighed dramatically. Wow, no hello? I crossed my arms. What do you want, Olivia? She shifted her weight. I came to talk about Mom and Dad. There's nothing to talk about. She gave me a tired look. Come on, Hannah. You made your point, okay? You're mad. But it's been weeks. They're still your parents. I laughed, the sound sharp and bitter. No, Olivia. They were my parents. Until they made it very clear that I didn't matter as much as you did. She rolled her eyes. Oh, please. They love you. Enough. I said, my voice firm. I'm not doing this. I see them for who they are now. I see you for who you are. And I don't need any of it in my life. She opened her mouth to argue, but I wasn't interested in hearing whatever excuse she was about to give. I'm done being second best, I continued. I'm done being the less important daughter. And I'm done pretending that I'm okay with it. Olivia stared at me for a long moment. Something flickered in her eyes. Something almost like regret. But I didn't care anymore. Goodbye, Olivia. And this time I was the one who shut the door. That night, as I sat on the couch with Sarah, drinking tea while the kids played in the other room, she raised an eyebrow at me. So, your sister showed up? Yep. Let me guess. She wanted you to forgive and forget so everything could go back to how it was? I smirked. Nailed it. And I told her to leave. Sarah grinned. Damn right you did. I leaned back against the couch, exhaling deeply. For the first time in my life, I felt free. No more chasing. No more begging. No more waiting for a love that was never going to come. I had my kids. I had my friends. I had peace. And that was more than enough. This story isn't just about betrayal. It's about finding your worth. It's a powerful reminder that family isn't just about blood, but about the people who truly love and respect you. Sometimes, the hardest but most necessary thing we can do is walk away from toxic relationships to protect ourselves and those who matter most. What do you think about this story? Comment 2 if you liked it, 7 if you didn't, and if you want more emotional and thought-provoking stories like this, don't forget to like and subscribe to Mr. HeartVibes so you never miss the next one. Thank you for watching.